Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. I'm very pleased to be joined by Patrick Le Clercq. Patrick is head of the Multiphase Flows and Alternative Fuels at DLR, one of the leading aeronautical aviation research centers based in headquartered in Germany. So welcome, Patrick. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're
Good
going to be
morning, good afternoon,
speaking
everyone.
here. So, yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are in the world. But you're going to be speaking at the SAF Congress, which is fast approaching us, 7th to the 9th of June in Amsterdam. Second year that event's been going. Lots of interest. Obviously, there's been a lot of news this week with the final sort of piece of legislation setting out, I guess, a roadmap or a pathway for decarbonisation of aviation. Obviously, a lot of people have been working for a number of years. So can you give us your sort of background and sort of thumbnail biography of the work that you've been doing at DLR to give us a context of some of the things that you've been working at?
Sure. So I guess from my accent, you might notice I'm French. So I studied in France, Paris, did my master's, physics, math, fluid mechanics. Then in Toulouse, I did my PhD. Quite a well-known place for aeronautics and aviation. And then I did my postdoc at Caltech in California. So to really have the physical background to understand what a real fuel is, what are the properties, the impact on the combustion chamber, and then on the performance of an engine and emissions. So that gives me the background. And you find this also in the title of the department that I lead, to try to really bridge these fundamental physical sub-processes involved all the way to the real world and the real fuels that we're using in aviation.
That's what the multi-phase flows refers to.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
understood. And in terms of where we are today, we've seen this major piece of legislation come in. But obviously, as I mentioned, yeah, there's been a lot of work done for a considerable amount of time around, I guess, SAF. We've seen, the bio SAF we obviously been working on. I've been working on for over 15 years in terms of sort of world biomarkets and some of the other work that we've been doing. Considerable, I guess, concerns around biosaf, predominantly around the true sustainability of some of the products, the extent they've got, and the availability. So now with this legislation, we have this more modern fuels, e-fuels being designed. Can you just sort of give us your view from a person that really understands, I guess, the science and the energy and the aviation part to this whole trilemma, as it were? What is your take around, I guess, the technology and where we are today in terms of developing, I guess, climate neutral aviation, which is the work, I guess, you're involved in?
Sure. I'll try my best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we are all aware of the goal, climate neutrality by 2050. Whether it's a country, it's a continent, it's a group of industries, I think that's the goal. And so this is also our contribution from the research and innovation side, trying to really it's my job basically to uh, perform research and do innovation to try to mitigate the climate impact of aviation. So now if you break it down to sustainable aviation fuels, SAF, what does it mean? It means we understand what's in the fuel. So the composition, we can assess, we have the analytics to look at what's inside the fuel. We understand what are the different key properties of that fuel and how these properties, physical and chemical properties, are involved in the different sub-processes occurring in a combustion chamber. So you could see now the links between fuel, its composition, properties, the sub-processes, and then the performance and emissions of a jet engine, and then its impact on climate.
Mm.
and on the environment. So that's really the logical, the causality chain between the fuel and your climate and environment. And so we can, for example, help in screening new SAF candidates. We can support the approval process of new pathways to produce these SAFs, whether they're based on biomaterials such as oils or sugars, or they're based on waste materials, forestry residues, or like you mentioned, the e-fuels or the PTL, power to liquid type of jet fuel.
Yeah. How many different types of fuels are there?
There's currently 7 routes that have been approved, depending on the feedstock and the conversion process to lead to the kerosene type of fuel, and more are coming, more are in the pipeline. Whether you look at different bio-based materials as the feedstock, or waste materials, or even, as you mentioned, the e-fuels or the power to liquid fuels. So we once we assess these, we kind of know the molecules you want to see in these fuels to really have the most benefits in terms of performance and emissions. But first of all, we look at safety. Aviation is always safety first, so they have to be safe to fly, and then we look at the additional benefits. And then once we have that, our goal is also to kind of design these fuels. We've done it. We've even flown some of these fuels to show that because under certain let's say market restrictions, you can't have 50% SAF in every single aircraft. We have 2 less of these diff SAFs, unfortunately. So whenever we use them, we want to make sure that they're really beneficial, not just in terms of CO2 reductions, but also for the whole climate and environment.
In terms of people that aren't experts in the subject, obviously we understand CO2, its impact in terms of climate change and forcing, but I guess specifically with aviation, there are the non-CO2 impacts, and quite a lot of I guess work is going into that area. People have been saying that it's upwards of 2/3 of aviation's impact is in the non-CO2, which is essentially, as I see it, contrails and other clouds forming off the back of that activity. So in terms of SAF being able to be designed to address those other non-CO2s, that is also, as I understand, a possibility when you're looking at designing a good fuel. It can do both, obviously reduce the CO2, but also be designed to not form as much contrails and other possible environmental impacts. Is that right?
Absolutely correct. Yes. So it's we first identify, and it's not obviously not just in my department, other colleagues within the DLR, but also the rest of the world, these non-CO2 effects. So as you mentioned, when you burn these fuels, there's mostly water and CO2 coming out. We just talk about the CO2, but there are also a few ppms of pollutants. And if you take conventional fuel, because you have some sulfur in the fuel, then you will have sulfur oxides being emitted. You have NOx being emitted. You have CO, carbon monoxide, and you also have soot being emitted. And these pollutants, to many different degrees, have also a contribution on the climate, because they react in the atmosphere or they form, as you said, contrails. So the mechanism is when you burn these fuels, you produce small soot particles that are emitted at high altitude, and these become nucleus kernels. So where the water condenses and forms ice crystals, and these are the contrails, the condensation trail that you see at high altitude. And under very specific conditions, atmospheric conditions in terms of humidity, pressure, temperature, these contrails will lead to high altitude cirrus clouds, which are not naturally made, but human made from aviation.
Yeah.
And they can cover quite a large surface area, and that impacts the radiative balance on a large surface area. It doesn't happen very often, but the few times when it happens, it does have a large impact on this radiative balance. And overall, this is what you can say. Now, if you look at the figures, there is a certain uncertainty. So now that it has been identified, we're trying to reduce first that uncertainty by performing more and more of these measurement campaigns, coupled with large-scale simulation of the whole system, the Earth, its atmosphere, up until the tropopause, to understand the radiative balance, and we are also trying to maybe develop some monitoring. So we're not yet where we can say, okay, this is going to be the policy in terms of non-CO2 effects, but at least it's been acknowledged, and we're trying to find a way to monitor that, so that maybe in a few years it might be implemented as such.
And I guess, is it about also taking advantage of the fact that we are in this stage where we're still essentially designing some of these next generation fuels, specifically the e-fuels, that are you are able, as soon as you understand how to create the best or the most minimal impact fuel, I guess, that is still, that's the opportunity, I guess, in terms of
absolutely, yes. So I think this plot is very well known. Climate neutrality by 2050 means for aviation reducing CO2 emissions. So we want to produce as much SAF as possible. We even say, without going towards 100% SAF aircraft compatible, it's not going to be doable, because right now, for safety reasons, obviously it's limited to 50% of SAF. The rest is going to be conventional crude-based Jet A1 or Jet A.
Yeah.
So we need to go past that and go towards 100%, which means that because these are bio-based fuel or really synthetic fuels, where you start with very simple molecules and you build those large hydrocarbon mixtures, you have a certain degree of freedom. You know, what molecules do you want? Which ones are really truly necessary to produce the power that you need to propel those aircraft, and which ones are not as beneficial. And we can do that. So we design these fuels, we optimize these fuels to take advantage of all the benefits. So not just in terms of CO2 reductions, but also in terms of pollutant emission reduction, which is beneficial to local air quality, but also climate. And that's the goal. And we know it's been now, we've been involved in the first European projects, such as AlphaBird, or the study SWAFI to 2008 started AlphaBird. And so we build on this knowledge, you know, really to make the link between the fuel and the overall climate impact of aviation. And it is quite substantial. And to reach this climate neutrality by 2050, we're convinced that there will be large amounts of SAF, and also going towards 100% SAF. And another area is, you know, from now until the time we have enough of these fuels, we need to use them in a smart way. So this whole concept of the smart use of SAF. When should we use these fuels? On maybe on routes where there's a higher chance or higher statistics in going through those areas where you could have contrail formation and high altitude cirrus clouds formation. So that's the idea behind it. Really
So
use them when So the basic idea is, instead of having 1% SAF blended for the entire fleet at one airport or several airports, maybe to use that amount on specific routes, specific aircraft, which is very beneficial, but also has large consequences in terms of logistics. You can imagine you need to segregate that type of fuel and use it only on specific aircraft, which is, so we're trying also to assess with other partners, research and other organizations, also from the whole system viewpoint. When does it really make sense? Also from the economics viewpoint.
Because there is more likelihood of forming contrails in certain geographies or in certain routes. Is that correct?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely. When it's the atmosphere at 10,000 to 12,000 meters is saturated with water vapor and very cold, then you have much higher chances of forming those
Contrails,
contrails, and it's so-called aircraft-induced cloudiness. It's the contrails that lead to these large cirrus clouds that cover large surface areas.
Got you. Excellent. It's a fascinating area for research and innovation, obviously very vital, and one I guess that's yes, a lot to do. And I guess this week with the first I guess big package that we've seen around plotting out I guess the next 20 years and certainly from a European perspective, going from I guess where we are now in terms of sort of 2% to 70% is huge. And I guess I mean, around the scaling up of those technologies, it's about also sort of, I guess, the production side. But I guess it's the first thing is where your focus is actually designing those molecules. But also, are you looking at the technology in order to how to make them and to try and make the I guess the ones that are able to be made the cheapest?
Absolutely. So I think it's now well known. Germany is keen on really developing the PTL technology. It's not the only one, and I think this is also one of the good messages I hear in events such as yours. There's not one silver bullet, depending on the geography, on the resources available. Different parts of the world, there will be one pathway selected and maybe another one in the different areas. But for Germany, I think the power to liquid route has been identified as very promising, yet still from a technology standpoint, the components to really produce these fuels are known, identified. There are a few routes. The two major ones are the so-called Fischer-Tropsch route or the methanol to jet route.
Yeah.
However, the integration of each single component, even though each component is maybe at a high TRL, technology readiness level, the integration of all these components into one plant to produce an e-fuel, that is still a challenge. But there's lots of investment really at the research scale, the pilot scale, the demonstration scale, and there are now also commercial initiatives. So I think we will see these types of fuel coming on the market in the next 5 to 10 years. Yes, definitely. And my organization is also involved, not just on assessing the fuel and designing the fuel, but also upstream, really on producing these fuels.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, there's certainly a lot to do, and it's been fascinating to talk to you. You've certainly helped clear up, some of the areas and just get an understanding for where we are and I guess the technology. And yeah, as I said, there's certainly huge scope. So good luck on your work. Thanks a lot for taking the time out to share your thoughts. As I said, you'll be speaking in detail at the SAF Congress this year, 7th to 9th of June in Amsterdam. We look forward to hearing more, learning more about your work, your research, and we wish you good luck in all the innovation that you're doing. So yeah, many thanks, Patrick.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's really my job at the Sustainable Aviation Futures Congress will be to bridge this gap between the technology the questions that the stakeholders might have. We're trying to really show that yes, it's a premium fuel. It is expensive, and there's not much of it, but it comes with premium qualities, and that we're trying to show, so that it makes the case also on the market. We're trying to push it.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, the policy is going to lead to investments, and we're going to start to obviously see the scaling up of new production facilities, and I guess learn through doing, and with hand in hand with more research, the industry can begin to scale up, and we can begin to really sort of address the problem. So yeah, as I said, we'll look forward to it. Sort of beginning the journey. It has been a long time coming. So yeah, many thanks, Patrick.
Well, thanks to you. Thanks also for supporting this endeavor. I think it's important for
we're all trying to accelerate the change, and bring the people together, and connect all the people in terms of that's necessary, from policy to finance to innovation to the actual entrepreneurs who are risking capital and developing SAF production facilities, through to the oil majors who obviously have an interest in creating this market. So as I said, we look forward to hearing more from you, and the Congress, which is coming up, as I said, in Amsterdam on June 7th to the 9th. So many thanks. Take care.
You're welcome. See you there.
Cheers. Bye.